last recipe. Maybe I'll go to you first. Yes.
So eating well might look differently if someone's experiencing side effects such as diarrhea. And so in this case, it would be really important to limit some of those foods that we usually tend to want to increase, such as fiber. Also, sometimes people find that eating less fat could also help with those side effects. And also lactose. So that's the sugar that's naturally found in dairy products like milk and cheese and yogurt. But by decreasing these types of nutrients, the side effects actually, you could manage the side effects because it's really important to eat and get, some people, because they're having stomach issues, might find that they don't have an appetite or don't want to eat, but it's so important to still get nutrients and calories in. So this recipe specifically is geared towards those who may be experiencing some diarrhea for the reasons of being low in fiber, having low, it's a dairy-free option, and it's low in fat.
And this is really key, Stephanie, because with our patient population, whether you're a stage 4 or a stage 3 patient, the treatments that they undergo, one of the most notable side effects is diarrhea, treatment-induced diarrhea. And they truly, truly suffer with it. And one of the calls that we get on an almost daily basis is, what can we do to help diarrhea? While there are a myriad of drugs that they get prescribed, addressing the diarrhea with diet would be ideal. Yeah. And this will be so helpful. Yeah. So I can't wait to share the link with our patient population. Thank you.
Some few dietary changes that might be different than the usual healthy recommendations, which before we were talking about, upping up the fiber. But in these cases, like you said, just being able to manage it with food is ideal.
Yeah, because even after they stop the treatments, the diarrhea still persists, and it can persist for a significant period of time. So this can be very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, so to start the recipe, now this is if you want to make your own sort of dairy-free alternative. This technique we're using with coconut. We're making a coconut milk. But you can use the exact same technique if you wanted to make almond milk, if you wanted to make oat. We made oat milk, cashew milk. So that formula that I put on there, you just apply it to nuts or seeds instead. So what we're doing is adding some shredded coconut. This can be freshly shredded if you want, or you can use the dried coconut, just get the unsweetened version.
Could you use frozen?
As long as it's grated. I've never seen frozen grated. Yeah, but if it's frozen, it's very easy to grate if it's frozen, the coconut.
Once it's thawed?
No, even when it's frozen. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. When it's frozen, you just run it through a cheese grater and you'll get really, really nice shavings that way.
That's so cool.
Yes. So, coconut in, about a cup. Imagine this is a cup. This is a little less than a cup. And we're going to add twice as much hot water to that. Now, this is where you can sort of control the dilution of the coconut milk. So if you want a lighter coconut milk, because coconut tends to be a little higher in fat, if you want a little lighter, you can just add more water. Add more water. That's one way. So we put it in, let it sit for about 5 minutes. With coconut, it doesn't really take that much time because it's pretty soft already. If you have almonds in here, or if you have nuts, cashews, you can let it sit a little bit longer just so they soften up. And then run it on the blender. Rule of thumb, if it's a hot liquid, I'm sure you know this already, I will say it anyways, take the top off and use a dish towel to release the steam. Otherwise, you will be covered in coconut water.
Hot.
I'm still afraid I'm going to do it, so I'm going to push this as far away from you guys as possible, closer to the front row.
But no, Jeremy.
That also has to be plugged in.
Hang on. There it is.
I think I do this probably every class. So lid on and start low, and then let it run. So this is just for show purposes. You can let it go for about a minute or so, just until it breaks down.
right.
Again, the coconut milk, it breaks down a lot faster than if you were to do almonds or cashews. You might
Right.
just want to let that go a little bit longer.
Okay.
This you then would strain through a cheesecloth. I find works best. If you don't have a cheesecloth, then you can use a sieve. Make sure all the coconut is out there. But just so you have an idea of what I'm saying, this gets strained through, so it catches all of the fibery bits, because that's what we want to remove, right? And again, if you don't have a cheesecloth, you would just wring out. With a sieve, just sort of press it through until you get your nice, rich coconut milk on the bottom.
That's fantastic.
Very, very simple. Super simple. Now, once you let that chill, so this is another way, again, if you're looking to create a lighter coconut milk, a little less fat, once you let it chill, the fat will float to the top.
Yeah.
So you can always take that off if you want, depending on your needs. If you want it richer, you leave it in.
Yeah. And everybody's different in terms of how they're experiencing diarrhea. So that's also one of the things that I always recommend to patients is to keep a food journal and to write down your food, and also kind of write some notes on how that food processed in your system and how you felt. And that's really the key way to finding out which foods impact your diarrhea symptoms.
Right.
Okay, so coconut milk down. Everyone got that? Right.
Yep.
You can always open up a can of coconut milk too. That's a lot easier.
And you know, that's the other thing that I wanted to mention is most ones that you buy in the grocery store will also be fortified with calcium and vitamin D, which are key nutrients. Now, we don't do that in the kitchen. So if you are making your own alternatives to milk, you might want to think about getting your calcium and vitamin D through pill supplements. You could always talk to your dietitian or your doctor in order to understand the amount that's right for you.
All right. So also really quick, if so you're not throwing anything away, the coconut shavings that we're removing, because we don't want it in the coconut milk, you can always toast them and use them in anything, baked goods. This is just the coconut bits after. Most of the flavor, to be honest, is going to be in here at this point, but it will still have some coconut flavor and good roughage, I guess, if you need some extra. But that's a way not to waste it. For this, we're making a coconut pudding. We're making a rice pudding, and we're using a white rice. We're using basmati rice because for this purpose, we actually want to avoid the whole grains.
Yeah.
You can definitely, if you're okay with whole grains, you can definitely use a brown rice for this. It will work. But for this, we're using basmati rice. So very simple. We have basmati rice and a stick of cinnamon that goes into the pot.
In the pot?
Yes,
Okay.
in the pot.
Honestly, ladies and gentlemen, I had never heard of basmati rice. I have to be very honest. But no, I hadn't. This was
The
my
white, one of your the white type of rices, which, you know, usually we want lots of fiber, whole grains.
Perfect. All right, so rice goes in. Coconut milk goes in.
Oh, it's nice and cold, yeah.
Yes. So that goes in, and I'm actually going to add twice as much. So if you want it really rich, you can add all coconut milk, or what I do is just water. And you can add that. Thank you. It looks like a lot. The rice expands quite a bit, and we actually want to simmer this for more than it takes to actually cook the rice, right? Because we want this to break down. We actually want this to get really, really soft. So that goes in. Any other spices, flavors, you can add at this point as well. One of my favorite frozen products is frozen cherries. These are delicious.
Oh my
They're
gosh.
cherries. You can use any fruit you want.
That's delicious.
This, because it doesn't have the seeds in there, is I think more appropriate for this recipe.
But again, depending on your experiences with this side effect of diarrhea, of course, cherries, it's fruit. It does have more fiber. So you might want to kind of play around with how much you're actually adding in. But cherries, because of their red color, have anthocyanins. So that's an antioxidant. Again, that's protecting yourself. So like I said, you could try it, maybe avoid, see how you are with the recipe first without the cherries, and then maybe add it in later on.
Yeah, just slowly start to incorporate it. Maybe you can start with 1 or 2 just for the flavor.
Exactly. Yeah, and again, everybody's different.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
There's that maple syrup.
Maple syrup is back. It never goes far. If you want to add a little bit of honey, or if you just want it as is, you can definitely do that. You're gonna get a little bit of sweetness from the cherry, probably not a lot. So we can add just a little bit now. We can always add a little bit later if we wanted. Cinnamon also has one of those funny things. There's nothing sweet about it, but it also has this presence to make things taste sweeter, like you think they taste sweeter. So that's going to help with that as well. So this is it. This goes on to a medium heat until it starts to simmer. You might want to lower it a bit. We don't want a very aggressive boil, just a very, very gentle simmer, and just let that go. If you need to top it up, so I would say at least 30 minutes. The basmati should start breaking down, get pretty soft and start breaking down by that point. If you need to let it go a little longer, everyone's sort of stove is a little different. Just top it up with a little more liquid so that it doesn't completely dry out. But otherwise you have the super flavorful sort of rice pudding with the cherries, and the cherries
give it some color. Look
give it a
how
little bit of color.
wonderful it looks.
And a little bit of flavor on there as well. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's pretty much it for the rice pudding. If you needed to keep the fiber out, obviously you keep it out. For our purpose, we're just going to add just a little bit of the coconut on top.
Where would you store that?
That's it. So thank you again, guys, everyone, for coming.
Yes.
Thank you, Philomena, for joining us, and Colorectal Cancer Canada.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it again. The website again.
www.colorectalcancercanada.com, and please visit Frank or myself. We're happy to help, truly.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks for coming, and thanks for tuning in.